In our last episode, we talked a lot about how we're not miserable now and we're not going to be miserable later. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about this whole die alone piece and how our social networks play into dispelling the loneliness and ensuring that we have people around us throughout the rest of our lives. Side note, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, clearly this video that you're seeing is not me. I am making a transitional little segment here because the following podcast was actually cut from our previous podcast. And so here in a moment, we will cut to the section of that podcast that I thought deserved its own space. Hey, welcome to Unapologetically Child-Free, the everything that you need in one place podcast for life without kids. I'm Maggie Dickens, a licensed therapist and your child-free hype woman, here with candid conversations about friendships, lifestyle, and everything that defines our child-free life. So join me on this journey where we get to live life unapologetically. Okay, I could talk for ages about how I don't believe that the child-free are unhappy, and then there are so many other articles that speak to this. However, for the sake of time, I'm going to jump straight into our third article that is talking about this idea that we're going to die alone. So there's parents out there who are in the comments or who are believing that the child-free are going to end up dying alone. There's so many things that I want to say. And the first is, if you are having children, is your retirement plan, is your healthcare plan when you're needing hospice, that is absolutely selfish and inappropriate to put on a child and an adult child to say, hey, I gave you life, even though you never asked for it. And so therefore you owe me your time, energy, and attention and money when you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, in order to ensure that I am taken care of because I didn't put in any additional planning. I think that is absolutely bonkers. And when I think of people telling me that I'm selfish for not having kids, I come back to this thought and say, it is so much less selfish of me to not ask for another human to sacrifice their life in order to take care of mine because I didn't make any other plan. And now that I'm off my little soapbox that I could be on for ages, give me a bullhorn. Here we go. Let me shout it to the rooftops. However, I really want to talk about why I believe, and more people are showing this in research, anecdotal conversations, that we as child-free women are not going to end up dying alone, even though women typically outlive men, even though we will not have these built-in healthcare providers in our children, or all of these things that people are believing are their backup plan or their first string plan, right? And the first is, before we even get into articles and research, if you simply listen with the intent to hear and understand hospice, nursing care, geriatric health providers talk about the people that they're caring for, who they are, who's coming to visit them. It is a universal experience for there to be people in a nursing home or long-term care facility who aren't having family members coming often, who aren't coming, this isn't The Notebook where your spouse is coming and hanging out and reading to you every single day. That may happen for a few, but when we are truly listening to these healthcare providers, we are hearing that more often than not, the relationships that are helping the people in the nursing home and long-term care facilities are the ones that they're making in that facility, because family members are not coming as often. And when they are, it's very short and it isn't this ongoing connection. And sure, I don't have a research article to back that up. That is simply me listening to other healthcare providers and hearing what they have to say about their experience. There will be plenty of people who say, that's not true. I see my grandpa visiting my grandma every day. And I think that's amazing. If you have to tell me that, it means it's an exception, at least from my perspective, right? And the other part is this idea that because you don't have kids, you're going to die alone, right? That's what we're talking about. Now that we've established that it's not a guarantee that your spouse or your children will be the people who are showing up for you if you are in long-term care or nursing home, hospice, something like that. Let's also talk about the people who don't have and never have had children. What the research does show, and the two articles that I mentioned previously touch on this, and the article that is so great it's an op-ed, I believe, by Jody Day, who is amazing. I admire her so much. It's called Your Biggest Fear, Dying Alone. This is actually from 2012. There's a little disclaimer on the website saying, hey, this is dated, and there's some updates in her book and all of that kind of thing. However, it's not significantly different from what I continue to hear from people, which is talking about so many different aspects of the fear of dying, the fear of getting older, how our society has this just negative outlook on aging in general. And we see it as this like terminal illness and that has to be prevented instead of saying this is the natural path for everyone. And when we do work on that fear, when we're doing that internal work, and remember, we were saying that the child-free are able and have more time and put more energy into personal growth and self-development, that we're doing the work to say, okay, I have to come to terms with my own mortality. As a licensed therapist, this is something that I talk with several of my clients about as they are advancing in age, that we have to pay attention to our own mortality and have some resolution there. The other part is that in the other two articles that we've talked about, and there are many more, talk about how the child-free have greater connections to persons outside of their marriage because they're not needing to spend as much time inside the family home. They are creating friendships outside of the one that they have with their partner. They're creating relationships, obviously, outside of any children that, in this case, they don't have. And so these relationships are created and they are long lasting and they're based on each individual person. And I also know the people that I call when I am in some type of distress, it's going to be my female friends. It's going to be the people who I know who understand. In the child-free space, we're making friendships based off of deeper things, not the superficial, hey, we're in the same mommy and me group, we're on the same street, our kids are in the same class, we're in the same workout group. We're going deeper. And these deeper relationships, as someone who works in the mental health field, these are the things that help our mental health long term. I have a friend whose neighbor is widowed and has several children and has a couple of medical concerns. And my friend, who is child-free, spends a lot of time with this neighbor, hanging out. And when the medical concerns became more serious, my friend was the one who was taking the neighbor back and forth to doctor's appointments and emergency medical care and all of these things, even though the children are in the area, because the children are saying, I don't have time. And because my friend is showing up, they get a pass. And I've seen so many other people give these testimonials within the child-free community of, I'm doing this for my mom's best friend because my mom's best friend's kids are busy with their own kids and they don't have time. And so I'm going to take my mom's best friend to chemo. Or the conversations of just recognizing that female friendships are the ones that help us stay aware of our own bodies. We are pushing each other to stay as healthy as we can. I know people are going to get mad at me and they're going to say, I'm a mom of 17 and I have a best friend and we talk every day and it is the deepest relationship I've ever had. Cool. Great for you. I love that for you. What we're talking about is norms and averages and the general experience, which means that there are outliers. Okay. I also know that in the child-free community, there are many people who say, where are these people? Where are these friends? I feel alone and I feel isolated. And hopefully as part of this podcast and being part of the unapologetically child-free community, you'll find your people. And while you are in that waiting space and while you are still looking for your people, it's important to realize that if we're putting all of our eggs into one basket, that is a really big gamble. Meaning, if I'm putting all of my eggs into my partner is going to outlive me, he probably will. He's going to outlive me, and so he will be my caregiver. I don't know what he's going to be like at 80. I don't know if he is going to be willing to take care of me in a way that a nursing home employee would. So perhaps he'll put me in a nursing home if I need it, right? And we'll have the finances because we will have planned for that. So when we think about dying alone, anyone can do that. Anyone can get to the point where they don't have a spouse. Maybe they never got married. Maybe they are divorced. Maybe they are widowed. So they don't have a partner. They don't have a spouse. Their kids have grown up and they either don't like you, and so they've cut contact off, or they've moved away and don't have any interest in being your caregiver. So here you are in a nursing home. Here you are at home on your own by yourself, like my friend's neighbor. Having children is not a guarantee that you are going to have a healthcare aid and the financials for healthcare when you're older. It doesn't mean that you're going to have someone who's going to live with you when you are struggling to get up and down off of the toilet or to get in and out of the shower. It doesn't mean that you're going to have somebody there who's going to be able to get down and clean the floors, right? And the difference I see in the child-free community versus the parent community is we know we don't have a person to rely on. We know that we don't have this quote unquote built-in elder care. So what we do is we invest in ourselves. We invest in our health. We invest in our friendships so that we have community and we have that reason to get out of the house and go to the park and meet with our friends. Heck, we've seen all of those heartwarming videos before where the elderly person who lives on their own is super sad and then goes to the park and meets a dog and does it every single day, right? And then the dog parents video it and it goes viral online. We need a reason to get out of bed. We need a reason to engage in our lives. And that's where our friendships are going to come in. That's why I believe that I need to show up to help the child-free find friends, because when we have those real lasting relationships, they're going to stand the test of time. And those are the people that, I mean, I can see with my group of friends, we're going to be, if memes still exist when we're like 80, I don't know what cell phones will look like. Will there be cell phones? Like, what will they be? Will they be on our palm? Like that little clip-on thing? Like, is it gonna, whatever. I can see us sending each other jokes and dog videos and, sometimes a dirty meme and all of those kinds of things. I can see us doing that, keeping us laughing, which science shows is a really great indicator for health, is when we're able to laugh. And in addition to those fun messages, we will send each other the messages that says, hey, I threw my back out and I can't walk my dog. And if they can't walk the dog, then as a group, solutions will be found, right? Whether it is, hey, I have a great dog walker, I'll see if she's available. Or even just bringing up the idea of, hiring someone, which may not have occurred to the original person, right? So friendships are crucial. It's also a consenting relationship. And one of the things you'll hear me talk about on the podcast or just in general is parents often put a lot of expectations on children, and it is a non-consented expectation. And one of those is, you're going to take care of me when I'm old. At no point have I ever signed up for that. Now, both of my parents would probably push me out the door if I ever showed up to try to take care of them, but that's not the case for all parents. And these female friendships are consenting relationships where these two adults are saying, I want to be in this relationship and this is how I want to show up in this relationship, which I believe is so much more powerful than the parent-child dynamic that will always be heavily one-sided. So I know that that was a lot of information and I really just got into the cursory bits of it. I wanted to talk about those two things together And I'll probably break them up into individual episodes in the future. But when we think about will the child free die alone, that is a really multifaceted question that is starting with happiness. Because when we are happy, when we are in this place of joy, which the research shows that the child free are much happier. The other side of it is when we are happier, we are making those connections, we are making those friendships. And those are the friendships that are going to be the thing between us and quote unquote dying alone. We will have that community because we're cultivating those friendships that are going to be with us for ages. And even if they aren't, and our friendships, they can come and go as the seasons do. I firmly believe that. We are learning how to make real friendships and lasting friendships, and the ones where we have the, who do you call to bail you out? Who do you call to bury the dead body? Who do you call when you need just to cry? Who do you call when you need some advice? We have those people, and we have the time to invest in ourselves and also those relationships. So if you can't already tell, I'm having a hard time ending this podcast because I just want to talk about friendships all day long. It's my favorite thing. I will definitely bring this back into another pod, but I want to hear from you, the child-free community. When you hear parents say to you in some type of a bingo situation and they're saying, you don't want to have kids? You know you're going to die alone, right? Oh man, the child-free are just so miserable. Man, being child-free sounds really lonely. When you hear those three things or variations of those, are you feeling more confident in yourself and in your decision to either say something back to them and say, research proves you wrong, anecdotal information proves you wrong, and or are you feeling more confident in your own decision to be able to just not pay attention? That's the goal here. Be indifferent to these people. When they are coming at you, and I need to take my own advice. I know this. When they're coming at you, to be able to just be like, they don't know what they're talking about. They're talking out of the side of their mouth right now because they're talking about something that is not rooted in reality at all, right? So I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you respond when you hear these statements given to you as a child-free person. So that is it. Thank you so much for being here today. I get pretty fired up about this topic, and I attempted to keep myself pretty subdued because at the end of this recording, it is 8 p.m. and I have an hour and a half before I have dinner. So I need to save my energy because I'm so hungry. So I'm going to go walk my dogs, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will talk next time. Ciao, y'all.